A shadowy killer, always lurking beneath a sheep's clothing. The brutal massacres he pulls off keep haunting even the sharpest feds out there. 14 drivers filed the exact same report. A passenger who vanished mid-route without a trace. A cop clocked something running at 30 miles per hour. It was upright, crossing a Michigan road. And it definitely wasn't human. A school camera caught a figure at 11:22 p.m., drifting through an empty hallway in the dark. The district confirmed the footage was real. These aren't campfire stories or internet rumors. They're documented cases with witnesses and official records, and nobody has been able to explain them. Here are 5 unsettling mysteries without answers. Picture this, January 2014, middle of the night. An empty high school somewhere in Idaho. A janitor is reviewing the surveillance footage. He spots something that makes him hit rewind. At exactly 11:22 p.m., a shape drifts across. Not a shadow, not a reflection. Something moving with intention through the hallway. The lights were dim. Every door was locked. That's how this footage entered the public record. Pocatello High has been standing since 1892. Over a century of students walked those halls. Before this footage, people talked about weird stuff. Cold spots, footsteps in empty corridors, doors slamming shut on their own. But most schools have those stories, right? You probably remember a few from your own. What they don't usually have is video proof. This clip from January 9th shows something strange. A semi-transparent figure gliding through the hallway. It moves slow and steady near the cafeteria. It stops near a doorway and pauses. Then the door sensor clicks open by itself. Nobody is pressing it, but it triggers anyway. The figure shifts and disappears behind a column. Then it reappears a few feet away. Like it's not following the same rules we do. District officials released an official statement about it. They confirmed the footage wasn't edited at all. They reviewed the original file, found no tampering. Technicians checked the door mechanisms for malfunctions. Nothing was broken. Everything worked fine. They ruled out heating vents and airflow. Nothing blows strong enough to trigger that sensor. Here's what gets people thinking about this case. The figure doesn't move like dust or debris. It moves like something controlled, something aware. What makes this story even heavier is this. Pocatello High has a documented history of deaths. Student deaths stretching back nearly 100 years. Accidents, illness, and in some cases, worse. The school doesn't publicize any of it, but former students talk about it openly. Many folks think there's a connection here between those tragedies and whatever got caught on camera. After the footage went viral, things changed fast. The district shut down access to surveillance archives. They cited privacy concerns as the reason. Paranormal investigators reached out for more information. TV crews requested interviews with the staff. The school declined almost all of them, but inside the building, strange things kept happening. Teachers noticed it in the weeks after. Lights turning on in locked classrooms at night. Alarms going off with no intruder detected. Sudden temperature drops along that same hallway. The same hallway where the figure had traveled. One staff member asked not to be named. He said he heard footsteps one February evening, echoing through the empty building while closing up. They were slow at first, then got faster, like someone was trying to catch up with him. But when he turned around, nobody was there. Skeptics point to digital compression or camera glitches, but that explanation falls apart under review. The figure moves independently of the frame rate. It casts faint light, then absorbs it, and the door physically opening. That's the kicker. That detail keeps this from being dismissed entirely. To this day, the district stands by it. The footage is authentic. They still say that. What's on it? Though still completely unexplained. Number 4, the Waterford Sheep Man. October 1972, a little after 1 a.m. Waterford Township, Michigan, late at night. A driver heading north on Hatchery Road calls in. Something just ran across the road in front, upright, moving fast, bigger than any dog. He didn't hit it, but he saw it clear. The way he described it stopped the operator cold. Wasn't a person, wasn't an animal, something in between the two. At first, cops figured it was a deer. Maybe some kids pulling a prank out there. No harm, no foul, they thought. But then a second call came in. Different road, but the exact same description. A tall, dark figure running fast on two legs. And then a third call came through. This guy swore the thing vaulted a guardrail, disappeared into the tree line without dropping to all fours. Waterford Township wasn't known for weird sightings back then. Just a regular suburb growing fast in the 70s. Most late-night calls were bar fights or teenagers, but this night was different. The first responding officer was a veteran cop. He'd seen plenty on those roads before, not the type to spook easy at all. He hit his spotlight and swept the area, and that's when he caught a glimpse himself. His patrol log was archived by local historians. It described a large, dark figure crossing the road, moving at a pace over 30 miles per hour. He noted it was running completely upright. Not the awkward gait of someone imitating an animal. This was fluid and powerful in its stride. It cleared a ditch and vanished within seconds. More units were called in for a search. One officer later told a reporter something strange. The part that stuck wasn't what he saw. It was what he heard out there. He was checking a stretch near Williams Lake Road. He heard something hit the fence line hard. Not brushing against it, but hitting it. Like a body clearing the top rail, dropping on the other side, feet hitting dirt. When he got his light on it, nothing. Absolutely nothing was there. Residents reported their dogs howling for hours after. Calls kept coming in all through the night. By dawn, the search turned up nothing concrete. No tracks, no evidence of anything sprinting through. Wildlife officials examined the site the next day. They ruled out a bear being misidentified. Bears don't run upright for long distances, and they don't clear fencing in a single bound. Police closed the file as unresolved suspicious activity. The kind of phrasing when nothing fits the report. The 70s had enough real crime to deal with. Officers didn't want to be known for chasing monsters. Over time, the story faded into local memory. One of those you-had-to-be-there nights. Stayed alive through the cops who responded. They'd mention it quietly long after retiring. Today it's called the Waterford Creature Case, one of Michigan's rare police-witnessed cryptid encounters. It never became a statewide legend or anything, but investigators who've dug into it say it stands out. The details were clean, consistent, and documented by people trained not to exaggerate anything. Number 3, Blind Frog Ranch, early spring, northeastern Utah, outside of Vernal. The ground should have still been frozen solid, but on this patch of land, the soil was warm. Warm in strange, uneven pockets throughout, like something underneath was thawing it from below. For the people working there, this was weird. Those hot spots were the first sign of trouble. The ranch sits along the Winter Basin in Utah, a place already saturated with strange stories. Lights in the sky, strange creatures reported. Decades of unexplained incidents in this area. It's only 20 miles from Skinwalker Ranch, so you get the picture here. The real weirdness started in 2009. When Dwayne Ollinger and his son Chad bought it, they weren't looking for UFOs or anything supernatural. They were chasing rumors of lost treasure, sealed inside the caverns that run under the land. That treasure legend might have been misinterpreted over time, a game of telephone across generations. But there was definitely something down there. What they found was a place where nothing worked right. The first real shift happened in 2010. Excavation crews set up heavy machinery on site. The plan was to access the underground tunnels. Within hours, the gear started malfunctioning, just seizing up for no mechanical reason at all. Walkie-talkies worked fine outside the dig site, but near the caverns, you got staticky feedback. Sometimes it was literal radio silence down there. They replaced parts, brought in new rigs entirely. Same outcome every single time. Machines that worked off-site jammed on the property. Local utility workers blamed geological quirks, magnetic pockets, maybe some mineral interference. But the ranch crew wasn't buying that, because things kept getting stranger every day. Test holes they drilled pulled up weird water. It didn't match groundwater from anywhere in the region. Samples showed elevated levels of radioactivity, brief spikes that would disappear days later, like they were never there in the first place. The readings changed so dramatically over time. State environmental officers performed independent checks. Their findings didn't offer much clarity at all. Something natural might cause it, they said, or something else entirely. That was their answer. And then came the underwater incident, the one that nobody has been able to explain. In 2013, a diver was contracted to survey. He squeezed through a narrow underwater passage. His job was simple: map the chamber, get out. But minutes into the dive, his line tugged hard. He said it felt like something had gripped it. His backup divers saw his light vanish completely. Then it flickered back on in a frantic strobe. He was fighting to move down there. When they pulled him out, he was gasping, couldn't articulate what had happened to him, just kept describing a pressure that pinned him. The footage from his camera was mostly static, obscured by silt, hard to make anything out. But the moment the line jerked is clear. Something forced him down in that water. Current, cave-in, or something else nobody knows. By 2019, the sheriff had multiple calls logged. Damaged equipment, trespassers never tracked down. One deputy reported seeing a bright flash above, like a camera flash in the sky. He wrote, "Locals chalk it up to the basin's reputation, but Blind Frog Ranch is different from the rest. Investigators have actually documented what's happening here. Geologists, surveyors, contractors, university researchers, all logged equipment anomalies without definitive cause. Some called it environmental interference. Others admitted the data doesn't match any pattern. If it were just broken machinery, that'd be fine. But it's the combination that keeps the file open. To this day, the caverns remain partially explored. Attempts to map them keep failing every time. Technology drops out. Divers refuse to re-enter. Every year, the land reveals one more anomaly without ever offering any real answers. Number 2, the Tanacu Exorcism. This one isn't supernatural in the usual sense. It's unsettling because it actually happened. In the village of Tanacu, Romania, the nuns at a small convent noticed something. A change in one of their own, a young novice. Her name was Irina Cornici. She wasn't sleeping much at all anymore. Spent most nights walking the halls alone, muttering and crying to herself constantly. Then she started skipping meals altogether. Not because she didn't want to sit with others. She simply refused to eat anything at all. At first they thought it was just exhaustion, a young woman overwhelmed by monastic life. But as days passed, she began refusing to pray. That's when they knew something was seriously wrong. What happened next would make national headlines. Romania's most controversial exorcism case in modern history. Irina was just 23 years old at the time. She had recently returned from visiting a friend. She worked as a novice under Father Corogianu, a strict cleric who believed in spiritual warfare. Good and evil were very real to him. Recognizing the difference was part of his job. So when Irina began screaming during services, accusing unseen figures of tormenting her constantly, he didn't see mental illness in her behavior. He saw possession by something evil. Doctors disagreed with his interpretation completely. Psychiatric staff diagnosed her with schizophrenia. They recommended antipsychotic medication for treatment. But after a short stay, she insisted she felt worse. She claimed the medical ward was filled with evil. So she returned to the convent within days. Back at Tanacu, things escalated fast. Irina lashed out physically at the sisters. She tore her clothes in fits of rage, told them she heard voices threatening to burn it down. Father Corogianu believed it was time to act. He assembled 4 nuns to help with a ritual. He believed this would cleanse her of evil, fasting, prayer, and physical restraint. That last part became the center of scandal. On June 13th, 2005, he gave the order. Irina was bound to a wooden cross with rope. She remained there for 3 full days, dehydrated, barely responsive to anyone. Some witnesses said she begged to be freed. Others said she screamed curses in multiple voices. The truth probably lies somewhere in between. But what nobody disagrees on is this. On June 15th, Irina Cornici stopped breathing. Emergency responders found her in cardiac arrest. Attempts to revive her failed completely. The church immediately tried to distance itself. Prosecutors charged Father Correggiano and the 4 nuns. Criminal negligence leading to death. The trial drew crowds from across Romania. He insisted he acted with religious conviction, claiming she was possessed by the devil himself. The court rejected that defense entirely. In 2007, he received a 7-year sentence. The nuns got between 3 and 5 years. Doctors confirmed Irina had acute psychosis, complicated by past trauma in her life, symptoms that untreated can become life-threatening. Her final days should have been under medical care, not subjected to an ancient ritual. What lingers is the collision between belief and evidence. The people involved weren't acting out of malice. They acted out of deep religious conviction, and that conviction led them down a dark path. A young woman in crisis was treated as a battlefield. Instead of being treated as a patient, Irina Cornici was 23 years old. She needed a doctor, not an exorcism. Number 1. The Ghost of Bus 828. Here's a question for you to think about. What would you do if you picked up a passenger and they vanished before the next stop came? In Stockholm, Sweden, late-night drivers see everything. People half asleep, intoxicated, wandering around. Folks without any real destination in mind. But in the mid-1980s, something different emerged. Along Route 828 running from city to suburbs, through wooded stretches of road at night, drivers started filing the same incident report. A passenger who disappeared mid-route without explanation. That's how the Ghost of Bus 828 was born. The first documented case came from one driver. He picked up a figure near Stadion Station. On a rainy November night, late shift. The rider moved slowly, kept their head down, wearing what looked like an old-style coat. Nothing unusual about that, really. He didn't think much of it at first, until the third stop when he checked his mirror. The bus was completely empty behind him. He knew he'd picked the man up for sure, hadn't lost track of him. Doors hadn't opened. The pressure mats hadn't registered any movement at all. He pulled over, checked every single aisle, thinking maybe there was a medical emergency. He looked behind every seat on that bus. The figure was gone, vanished completely. This story would have faded into nothing if it weren't for what happened 2 weeks later. Another driver experienced the exact same thing. Then another driver, and then another after that. Soon, dispatchers recognized the tone of those calls. A quiet voice coming over the radio late at night. "I think I have the passenger." The Stockholm Transit Authority reviewed the logs eventually. They found something that surprised everyone. 14 separate reports over almost a decade, all describing the exact same silent figure. Someone who boarded without ever speaking a word, then vanished without a trace mid-route. The official stance was that drivers were mistaken or distracted during their late-night shifts. But internal memos told a different story. They acknowledged the reports were consistent and unusual. Here's the thing that doesn't add up. If drivers were making the same mistake everywhere, you'd expect it to happen across the country. But it didn't happen anywhere else at all. It only happened on Route 828. Passengers started sharing their own stories, too. One university student claimed she felt someone sit right behind her on a nearly empty bus. When she turned around, no one was there, but the seat cushion was indented. Some locals connected it to a 1940s accident. A man struck and killed on that same road, reportedly on his way home from a night shift. Others pointed to older folklore in the area, stories that had circulated for generations. Most drivers dismissed these tales completely, but they were the ones who hadn't experienced it. For those who had, it was more than a story. One retired operator said something interesting. What unnerved him wasn't the figure itself. It was the temperature inside the cabin. It dropped every time, he told reporters. Like opening a freezer door suddenly. And then after the third stop, back to normal. By the late 1990s, the reports had faded. Maybe drivers just stopped mentioning it altogether. Maybe the route changed enough to break the pattern. Or maybe the figure simply stopped writing. What remains are the logs from back then. Real entries written by seasoned bus operators. People who had nothing to gain by making it up. And in each one, the same exact detail. The passenger never spoke, never interacted, never touched the fare box on that bus. Just appeared and then disappeared. Next time you're riding a late bus somewhere, maybe check the seat right behind you. If it's empty, but the cushion's pressed down, might be worth getting off at the next stop. So those were 5 mysteries without answers. Real footage, real police reports, real witnesses, people who saw things they can't explain. The question isn't whether you believe them or not. It's what you'd do if it happened to you. Stay safe out there.